It was a bright Sunday afternoon, the kind of ordinary, happy day that nobody remembers until it becomes the worst day of their life. A school field in Victoria, British Columbia. March 1991. There was a football game on the grass. Dozens of families, parents, spectators, children running everywhere. And one little boy, 4 years old, a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles t-shirt, blue sneakers, freckles just starting to show. He asked his parents if he could go play on the playground, just a short walk away. They could almost see it from where they stood. A few minutes later, his father walked over to check on him. He was gone. Not lost. Not wandered off. Gone. In broad daylight. In a public park. Surrounded by dozens of people. And here is the detail that has haunted an entire country for 35 years. Out of all those people, all those parents, all those witnesses, not one single person saw what happened to him. His name was Michael Dunahee, and he is still missing today. Welcome to Unfinished Dossier. If you believe these children should never be forgotten, take 1 second and subscribe. Because this is the story of a boy who vanished in plain sight, and the mother who turned her worst nightmare into the thing that protects your children today. Before I tell you how Michael disappeared, I want you to know who he was. Because he was not a headline. He was a little boy. Michael Wayne Dunahee was born in May of 1986 in Victoria, British Columbia. By the spring of 1991, he was 4 years old. Almost 5. If you've ever known a 4-year-old, you know exactly the age. Old enough to run ahead. Old enough to ask for a little freedom. Can I go play? Young enough that you say yes because the playground is right there and the world still feels safe. He had freckles that were just starting to come in. He loved the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like every kid in 1991 did. And on that last morning, that's exactly what he was wearing. A Ninja Turtles t-shirt. A blue hooded jacket with red lining. Bright, multicolored rugby pants. Little blue sneakers. I want you to hold that picture, because it's the last picture anyone has. A 4-year-old, dressed for a fun Sunday out with his family, full of cartoons and freckles and the ordinary magic of being a small child on a spring afternoon. His family was, by every account, a close and loving one. His mother, Crystal. His father, Bruce. Remember Crystal, because the story I'm going to tell you is, in the end, as much about her as it is about Michael. She's going to do something extraordinary, but she doesn't know that yet. On this Sunday, she's just a mom at a weekend sports practice. Let me set the scene for you. Victoria, British Columbia, the provincial capital, out on Vancouver Island. A beautiful, mild, ocean-edge city. In 1991, it had the feel of a place where bad things happened somewhere else. To someone else. It was the kind of city where you let your kids run ahead. Where a crowded park on a Sunday felt like the safest place on earth. That afternoon, the Dunahee family went to Blanshard Elementary School. Crystal was taking part in a women's flag football practice on the field. Bruce was there watching, and there were dozens of other people around. Other families, other kids, a normal, busy, public Sunday gathering. There's something almost unbearable about how normal it was. There was no warning, no bad feeling, no stranger that anyone clocked as wrong. Just a family at a school field on a sunny day. Around 12:30, Michael asked the question every 4-year-old asks. Could he go play on the playground? It wasn't far. A short walk from where his parents were. The kind of distance you let a child cross on a day like that, in a place like that. They said yes. Of course they said yes. Any of us would have said yes. That's the part that has stayed with people for 35 years. There was no mistake here. No neglect. Just an ordinary, loving yes on an ordinary, sunny day. And that yes is the last fully ordinary moment in this story. Before we go on, I want to know where you're watching from tonight. Michael's case is Canadian, but missing children belong to no border. Every country watching this knows a name like his. So tell me in the comments, what city, what What country are you watching from? Let's see how far Michael's name travels tonight. Because a name spoken is a name not forgotten. Now, let's walk back onto that field, and let's count the minutes. Because what happened next happened in almost no time at all. Here is what we know, and here is what we will never know. We know that around 12:30 in the afternoon, on Sunday, the 24th of March, 1991, Michael Dunahee walked from his parents toward the playground at Blanshard Elementary School. We know it was a short walk, a matter of meters, the kind of distance you could cover in well under a minute. And we know that a few minutes later, his father went to check on him, and Michael was not there. Think about how small that window is. A few minutes, maybe less. The time it takes to finish a conversation, to watch one play in a football game. That is the entire window in which a 4-year-old boy disappeared off the face of the earth. At first, and this is the cruel mechanics of these moments, there would have been that half second of not yet panic. He's just on the other side. He's behind the slide. He's with another kid. The mind reaches for every ordinary explanation first. But Michael wasn't behind the slide. He wasn't with another kid. He wasn't anywhere. And the panic that followed is the kind no parent should ever have to feel. Crystal and Bruce calling his name, scanning a park full of other people's children, looking for a Ninja Turtles t-shirt, asking everyone, "Did you see a little boy? 4 years old. Freckles. Have you seen him?" Almost immediately, people began to help. Around 50 people, by some accounts, started searching the area right away. A crowd of adults fanning out across a school field and a playground, looking for one small boy. And here's something important, something that sets this case apart from so many others we cover on this channel. The police were called right away, and from the very beginning, they treated this as an abduction. I need you to understand why that matters. On this channel, we have told you story after story where the first response failed, where a missing young person was written off as a runaway, where police waited, where time, the most precious thing in the first hours, was lost to a wrong assumption. That did not happen here, because Michael was 4 years old. A 4-year-old does not run away from home and vanish from a crowded park. Everyone understood, almost instantly, that something had been done to him, that someone had taken him. So the response was fast. The response was massive. And it still wasn't enough. Because by the time anyone realized Michael was gone, whoever took him already had their minutes. And in this case, a few minutes was all it took. Let me put you in that geography. A school field, open ground, streets around it in several directions, cars. A busy Sunday with people coming and going, so an extra car, an extra adult, a child being led or carried, none of it would necessarily look wrong. Not in the half second anyone might have glanced. And that brings us to the single most haunting fact of this entire case. The fact that 35 years later still makes no sense. There were dozens of people there. Dozens. A whole community out in the open on a clear afternoon. And not one of them, not a single witness, ever came forward to say they saw what happened to Michael Dunahee. No one saw a stranger approach him. No one saw him taken by the hand. No one saw him carried to a car. No one heard him cry out. In a park full of watching eyes, a 4-year-old was erased, and the crowd saw nothing. How is that possible? How does a child vanish in seconds, in daylight, in front of dozens of people, and leave no witness, no sound, no trace? That question is the black hole at the center of this case. Everything else, the enormous search, the thousands of tips, the decades of work, all of it orbits that one impossible silence. I want to stop here for a moment. If you're still with me, and I hope you are, because the scale of what comes next is staggering, do 2 quick things. Tap the like button. It genuinely helps these cases reach people who might remember something, even now. And in the comments, tell me, how do you think a child could vanish in front of a crowd with no one seeing a thing? I read every comment on these cases. Your eyes might catch something, because what the people of Victoria did next became one of the largest searches in the history of Canada. And even that was not enough to bring Michael home. What happened in the hours and days after Michael Dunahee vanished is almost hard to comprehend. The search became enormous. Hundreds of volunteers, police from multiple agencies, an entire city mobilized around the disappearance of one 4-year-old boy. It would grow into one of the largest police investigations in Canadian history. Not one of the largest missing child investigations. One of the largest investigations of any kind in the history of the country. Think about the resources that means. Every available detective. Ground searches. Air searches. Door to door. The machinery of an entire police force turned toward finding a little boy in a Ninja Turtle shirt. And over the years that followed, the numbers only grew. More than 11,000 tips. 11,000. A reward that reached $100,000. Followed up, chased down, cross-checked. And from all of it, from 11,000 tips, from one of the largest investigations the country has ever seen, police have never had a single solid lead. Sit with that contradiction for a moment, because it is the engine of this entire case. The effort could not have been bigger, and the result has been almost nothing. In most cases we cover, the problem is too little urgency, too few resources, a case set aside. Here it is the opposite. Everything was done, everything, and still the silence held. No witness, no physical evidence at the scene that pointed anywhere. No confirmed sighting of Michael after 12:30 that afternoon. It is as if the ground simply opened. There were moments over the years that felt like they might be something. Over the decades, more than one person came forward or was found who resembled Michael. People who wondered, quietly or out loud, whether they might be him. Whether the boy from the playground had somehow grown up somewhere, under another name, not knowing who he was. And each time, there was that unbearable flicker of hope. Could it be him? After all these years, could this be the answer? Police did the work. DNA tests, careful comparisons, multiple people over the decades tested against a question every one of them raised. Are you Michael Dunahee? And every single time, the answer came back no. No match. Not him. Hope raised and hope lowered again and again across 35 years. I want to be honest with you about what that does to a family. To live not with grief, exactly, because grief needs an ending and they have never been given one, but with something crueler. The permanent open door. The phone that might ring. The stranger who might be him. 35 years of a question that will not close. Most families faced with that would be destroyed by it, and no one would blame them. But Michael's mother did something almost no one could do. Let me ask you something directly. One of the largest investigations in Canadian history. 11,000 tips, and not one solid lead. Does that sit right with you? In the comments, tell me what you think that silence means. Someone, somewhere, has always known something. The question is why, in 35 years, it has never surfaced. Because while the case went cold, one woman refused to let the world look away. Crystal Dunahee lost her son on a Sunday afternoon in March of 1991. And then she was handed the worst sentence a parent can receive. Not death, not even certainty, but not knowing. Forever. She could have disappeared into that. Anyone would have understood if she had. Instead, she turned her grief outward. She decided that if she could not save her own son, she would spend her life trying to save everyone else's. Crystal became one of Canada's most determined advocates for missing children. She took on a leading role with Child Find British Columbia, an organization devoted to finding missing kids and protecting children before they're ever taken. But she didn't stop at advocacy. She went after something bigger, something that could change the outcome for the next family standing on a field screaming a child's name. She became a driving voice for bringing the Amber Alert system to Canada. If you don't know the name, you almost certainly know the thing itself. The Amber Alert. That sudden message that lights up every phone in a region when a child is abducted. The highway signs. The broadcast interruptions. The system that turns an entire population in an instant into a search party. Think about what that system does. It attacks the exact thing that destroyed Michael's case. Those first few minutes. The window where a child is taken and no one yet knows to look. Amber Alert collapses that window. It tells everyone, everywhere, immediately. Watch for this child. Watch for this car. Now, right now. Crystal believes that if that system had existed in 1991, it might have saved her son. Let that land. A mother, robbed of her 4-year-old, looked at the gap that swallowed him and spent her life building the thing that could close it for everyone else's children. I've told a lot of these stories, and this is one of the most remarkable things a grieving parent has ever done. She could not get an answer, so she built protection out of the silence. And there is more. Every year, the community holds a run. The Keep the Hope Alive run. Year after year, decade after decade, people gather in Michael's name to raise awareness, to raise money for child find, and to refuse, publicly, to forget. And in a detail that will break your heart and lift it at the same time, that run has been carried forward by Caitlin, Michael's sister, a sibling keeping alive the name of a brother the family has never stopped searching for. This is what I mean when I say this story is as much about Crystal as it is about Michael. Because the cruelest cases can produce the most extraordinary people. And Crystal Dunahee took the worst thing that can happen to a human being and turned it into a shield over millions of children she will never meet. Every time an Amber Alert lights up a phone in Canada and a missing child is found because of it, that is, in part, Michael's legacy. His mother's refusal. A 4-year-old who never came home, still protecting children today. I need to step out of the story for a moment, because what Crystal Dunahee built is the entire reason this channel exists. One person refusing to let a name disappear. If this story has moved you, share it. Send it to one parent you know. Not for me, for Michael, so that a boy who vanished in plain sight keeps being seen. Now, let's come all the way to today, because the search has never stopped. So where does the case of Michael Dunahee stand right now? As of this year, it has been 35 years. 35 years since a 4-year-old walked toward a playground and never came back. And he has never been found. But the case is not closed. It has never been closed. Victoria police still describe it as an active investigation. Officers are still assigned. The file is still open. In 2021, to mark 30 years, police launched a dedicated online tip portal, a modern way for anyone, anywhere, to come forward. And hundreds of new tips have come in since. Each one followed up, each one carrying that same fragile possibility. Maybe this one, maybe now. Over the years, police have also released age progression images, careful projections of what Michael might look like as a grown man. A toddler's face, aged forward by computer, into a teenager, a young man, a man now approaching 40. Images made in the hope that somewhere, someone might look at a face they know and finally make a call. And yet, I have to tell you the truth this channel always tells. After 35 years, after one of the largest investigations in Canadian history, after 11,000 tips, a $100,000 reward, and every tool modern policing has, there is still no answer. We do not know who took Michael Dunahee. We do not know why. We do not know if he is alive or gone. We do not know anything. But here's what we do know. Michael Dunahee is not forgotten. His face is one of the most recognized in the country. His name changed Canadian law. His mother built a legacy of protection. His sister still runs in his name. An entire community still gathers every single year to say, "We remember. We're still looking. We have not let go." That is what an unfinished dossier truly is. Not a forgotten file, an open one, a question a whole country is still refusing to stop asking. I want to leave you not with the mystery, not with the silence or the failure or the open door that never closes. I want to leave you with him. Michael Dunahee was 4 years old. He had freckles just coming in. He loved the Ninja Turtles. On the last ordinary afternoon of his family's life, he asked if he could go play, and they said yes, the way any loving parent would. He was a little boy, not a case file, not a mystery, not a cautionary tale. A little boy who is still, somewhere, somehow missing. And somewhere out there, the truth still exists. Someone knows something. After 35 years, memories shift. Loyalties change. Guilt grows heavy. It is never too late for one person to finally say what they saw or what they did. If you have any information about the disappearance of Michael Dunahee, you can contact the Victoria Police Department at 250-995-7444 or through their online tip portal. It is never too late. Before you go, do the one thing that matters most on this channel. Subscribe. Not for me. For him. For every child whose face deserves to stay seen. When you subscribe to Unfinished Dossier, you become part of the reason these names stay spoken. So subscribe and never let a case go cold. A boy who vanished in plain sight. A mother who turned her grief into a shield for your children. A name a whole country still carries. Every file has a story. Not every story has an ending. This was the case of Michael Dunahee. Thank you for not letting him go cold.